Okay, we should be set up now. Hello, War of the Visions fans. I'm Jackie Fox. I'm going to be enjoying me a nice local beer. Oh man, I love sours. Kind of an acquired taste. A little bit kombucha-like, but also usually pretty low alcohol, so if you're trying to get tipsy, it's probably not the best way to go, but a good, nice, light, refreshing sipping beer. And we're going to be doing some arena, showing off Veritas of the Winds a bit, and talking through some viewer comments. And a number of viewer comments, because of some of the videos that I've done recently, are going to focus on some of the mistakes that WotV has made. Some of the mistakes that have potentially driven away potential players over especially the last 6 months to a year. But I do want to bring an immediate silver lining to all of that. One, with as fast as the meta has had to redefine itself with the introduction of units such as Elia the Alabaster, all of the things that have come from trying to balance her as a unit as well. What's my... I do want to mention that, by the way, I'm using LD Player. That's my current emulator. If you know of better emulator currently for War of the Visions, let me know in the comments, but LD Player 9 has worked pretty well for me. The last time I tested it against things like Google Play Games and BlueStacks, it worked better for my computer. I know some of those options work better for some of you for different reasons, but this is what works for me, so this is what I do. And while we're going to be talking about, again, some of the mistakes of War of the Visions, I really think that right now is kind of like the golden age of War of the Visions, in that there's definitely been a period of time relatively recently, over the last, kind of the middle of the game of War of the Visions, maybe the last couple of years, where it's been a little simple. There's been complexity in the system. It's not always just an elemental matching game. But the advantages, like the native advantages that were given out at the very beginning to elemental teams against elemental counters, I think it's like a 25% attack increase, a 25% defense reduction, or defense increase, whatever, damage reduction to the opposing element. Those things are powerful, and when there weren't a bunch of other layers of defenses, if there weren't a bunch of other strategies and things such as that, then that was a really powerful way of countering a team. But there's so many more factors involved in the game now, and as I was getting into in my elemental tier list video, that's not even necessarily the best way to organize the game right now in terms of power, because teams like the one that I'm going to be showing you today use Pierce chaining, and while they do use, while I am taking advantage of this being a wind team so that I don't need all of the Pierce VCs, and some of my VCs aren't even that great here, the fact that I am using some strong... I'm only using one piercing BC in here, actually. But there's definitely teams that like make better use of modern vision cards with this. I haven't been paying as much attention to vision cards lately, even though vision cards are easier to get. When they come with espers, that can be really powerful, but they're also a little bit easier to pull while I'm going for units, so I tend to pick them up anyways later and then build what I really want to use. So I don't put as much like viz into vision cards as maybe I should, because they're definitely powerful, and they're one of the ways that the game is redefining itself. Another one, you know, the evasion, oh god, full evade earth. I'm definitely gonna lose it. I would definitely lose to this, even though there's some good accuracy here. There's guaranteed hit here, which is pretty problematic for a lot of earth evasion. There's not as much guaranteed hit avoidance unless you have Katone's LB active. So Triple Drain can actually do some cool things here. This can also trigger him to use Triple Drain more often, which can make him an even better tank in a lot of ways. But I'm still probably going to lose this match because only Glaciella is going to be able to hit units like these reliably. Anyways, there's just a lot of things to consider and a really rich strategic environment right now. And a team like this also... at least the team that I'm running, I've heard A2 can 3v1 these guys, but sometimes like units like this, they just fall too easily and can't take you out fast enough to really be able to deal with this. Again, I think A2 can probably even the odds a lot, but you know, even teams like this can struggle against a team like this at times. I'm not really going to fight those though, because come on, I got to get some wins in today. I've already tried to record this video once, and I fought a lot of ice teams with this, and I'm sure that there's versions of this team that do better against that, because my ice team has gotten beat, which is also a little bit dated, by this team specifically with a better setup. But let's go for an earth team that I can almost certainly win against, and get started on some of the viewer comments as well. Because, you know, while I think in terms of variety of strategies that are available and potentially worthwhile in this game right now, we've never seen more. But specifically in the video that on the thumbnail it says, "Is the mage meta the future of PvP in WotV?" We got a few comments. I discussed a lot more some of the issues that maybe WotV has at this moment. Auras being one of them. Dr. Kaiser26 says, "Auras have the potential to be a big mistake, but we also have to remember that they were introduced with Summer Glaciella as a way to counter Bright Elia's ability to ignore tanks' hate and deal select 3 single target high damage, which I would say was the original design mistake. They made that girl too stacked, and now everything has to be similar or above." And I would even say that they've kind of failed in a lot of ways at making the things since her similar or above. There is a lot of powerful stuff, but the fact that it has to counter such an amazing unit. And like, yeah, I really see what you mean by how that really made Auras a bit of a necessity as well. And it hadn't really occurred to me, I guess, before this point, that a skill like that, from its design, even if you disregard the things, because there's a couple of elements that make that skill especially oppressive, that you didn't even feel were necessary to mention. Like the fact that it has so much range that it easily invalidates missile strategies. Because it's a skill that can one-tap missile units from a similar range to what they have. And if you just run at them and can take maybe one hit from them, you can probably body an entire missile team in one shot with Stag Impact. It also has CT down for everything it hits, which is just brutally nuts. You know, this is already powerful enough on an LB, something like Sweetheart Ildira, but actually putting it on a skill like this that's even more likely to hit the entire opposing team and can be spammed is just ridiculous. But those two things don't even factor into Dr. Kaiser's complaint, and I would actually agree that maybe in some ways the thing that breaks the mechanics of the game even more is the select 3 attack. There is one counterpoint I'd like to make to that, is that that's not necessarily the most broken thing if it's kind of a vanilla attack. I mean, Omnilus is very powerful for the exact same reason, but she doesn't quite have the... I don't think she has quite the same range, and she definitely doesn't have the CT down. But if she can hit all 3 units, then it does effectively invalidate hate. So, you know, while Omnilus might be a more balanced unit than Elia the Alabaster, they both do have this problematic ability, and I guess tanks do need a way to counter that somehow. And it's kind of a genie that you can't quite put back into the bottle. It's also hard to counter against because, you know, there's no real good reason to hate on Strike specifically because it's pretty successful, and in part because it has her. But, you know, like a lot of the strategies that would deal with Strike, a lot of strategies that deal with single target, a lot of strategies, I think maybe part of it might be like the range resistance type things that we've seen, or some of the CT shenanigans nullification effect. I think those are decent ways of countering it. But maybe there hasn't particularly been the greatest way of doing this yet, unfortunately. And that still kind of makes her a problem on a lot of teams. Like, before I recorded this video in my earlier PvP, I was facing an Elia team where the other two units just weren't good lightning units, and I thought it would be an easy win despite having her on the team. But then everybody got to around the middle of the field, Elia didn't die, she CT'd down my whole team while dealing good damage to all of them even though they're lightning units. Then that allowed the rest of her team to attack before anyone got another turn, and then because of all the CT down, she still got another turn in to decrease my CT even further, which almost gave her team even more chance to take me out, although I only had one unit left at this point. But they did get one attack in before getting murdered, and it was just like I wasn't even playing the game. So yeah, things are gonna have to get a little bit more absurd, and I think, you know, especially tanks have to get stronger to deal with this, and that eventually as more units get released and there are more counterpoints to this, maybe that don't make some of the same fundamental mistakes, and which can kind of balance her. Like, it's a good ability, but you know, there's a lot of things, a lot of abilities that almost seemed broken when they came out, but eventually got balanced to not be as big of a deal. I think it's going to be really hard to do it with something like that, and I don't know, I think it's important that you don't make other problems trying to solve that as well. So it's a conundrum. It really is a conundrum. On how to deal with that. But that being said, like, I don't think it's the biggest problem. It does make Strike and Lightning a little bit more dangerous at times, but I think that the only huge beneficiary to that necessarily is Strike. And also, oh my god, like, this is why I keep seeing Setia so many times, is she just does so very much these days. Glad I didn't have Courage, or that could have gone sideways. And this is what I'm saying, even though, like, fire is my least favorite element by far, I think. Also, love this name, Chillhop is my favorite. I saw it last week as I was getting up in the ranks. Chillhop, you are good at this game, I want to say. There's a lot of names that I see often in the high ranks, and you're one of them. Very memorable. You know, we're also working into a point where not only can that kind of start to balance itself out to where it's not the biggest threat anymore, that also there's a diverse range of threats available, and units, especially like Dario, can be threatening on multiple very different teams. Here he is with some Pierce synergy, but he's also really great with Katana team and Katana VCs. So another cheating way, but spelled differently. Okay, I think I fought him like in last week's video. And in fact, because of how powerful this team is, that's why we're seeing so much ice, something I mentioned earlier, which is meaning that some of these fire teams can actually do stuff. It also, like, I'm getting good bonuses from this team, but like, what do I fight? Maybe I can beat other older win teams? Ooh, he just got upgraded recently. We'll give this team a shot. Man, that's a good beer. Holy shit. Shout out to Edmonds Oast Brewing down here in South Carolina. If you happen to be near this place, they'll ship you beers, and they got some good stuff, especially if you're into sours. But they have a bunch of, like, more traditional beers that are just really cool as well. Not sponsored, by the way, I just like them. Another comment on that video was from Dreadpike. I've been running a pretty nifty setup with the Heo Vision card. Forgot what it's called. A2, Freyevia, and Winter Ravis. So this is an ice team, but it's also an ice team that's using a vision card from a job synergy that works for all of its units to just increase its power level even further than what ice is already capable of. All three meet the requirements for the VC. Paired with the Last Wall Ice VC on subslot for extra agility, you can be super fast with that team. And, you know, Ice already, and a lot of elements kind of already had good agility setup, And if you're watching the vision card video, especially if you're one of the returning players that I was talking about earlier in this video, I've put out some great content for people who kind of understand the game but need to understand more of the specifics of where we're at the moment. That vision card video is probably the best thing for getting into it. It's a little bit long, but if you're looking to get back into the game, this will help you understand it better. And I discuss things like this, but one of the things that we focus on in that video in ranking the different job types is, you know, one of the things that got them a lot of points is how many agility VCs they have. And if you can run an elemental synergy and a job synergy and you don't have agility VCs, you can supplement in their element-based VCs for the extra agility. I think it's important. This is a really good team design. They finished the comment off by saying, I believe Old Doa should be on the higher VC as well, so good upgrade for me to replace Ravis on the team. I never really thought of Ravis as a tank myself. I think it would probably make more sense for a number of reasons to replace Frievia, especially, well, no, the last wall Ice VC is more physical, but it is in your subslot, so even if it's like Eldered, it's probably not the biggest deal that you're going to a more magically based team. I think maybe A2, being so powerful but also kind of frail, that keeping the attention off of her with dual tanks that also have healing capabilities and can kind of keep each other safe might be a really good strategy. The longer A2 can stay alive, the more terrifying she's going to be, so maybe that's a really good strategy there. One of the things that really scares me in this matchup is, ooh, HP absorb on everybody. Okay, that's cool. But getting like subtly throwing charm onto something could be a really big problem for me, even as I'm 2v3ing this, because suddenly that puts me in a situation where I'm 3v2ing this, at least for a moment. But no, we didn't use it. Okay, we're in AoE rage, so his damage said not to pick on any one of us individually. Cool, cool, cool. Threaded the needle there. But this is also a good indication of why a team like this is better than an older team that is more directly using win strategy only and not using kind of a VC strategy in addition. It was just a pretty clean win there. You know, it was pretty clear that we had more power from start to finish. And again, that's even with using a free unit on our team. Very powerful free unit, but is what it is. Moving on, we're going to talk about a comment on my Kilfe LB preview video. Next up. That comment comes from Venju, but let me go ahead and try to pick my next opponent. Strike team? No water? I can probably take that. Yeah, let's go for it. Okay. I want her weapon to be my weapon skin. It's a good looking staff, you know. I love Kilfe, the first Earth tank. And people who've been watching this channel for a while know she's like my sentimental favorite unit. I just really love her. And I've wanted her staff for a long time as well. She is a staff collector, and I think I am too. I would really like to add that one to my collection. It also gives me an opportunity to talk about a concept called Super Trust Masters, which is a thing in FFB, and I think a thing that might, out of like a lot of the things that were in FFB that I would maybe expect to come to War of the Vision, Super Trust Masters might be a thing. So maybe like 20 reincarnations in or something, you unlock their Super Trust Master, maybe on your first reincarnation, taking them to 140. So with a system like this Unleashed, you might get a, you know, maybe they could put it behind like you have to do an extra quest to unlock it or something, or maybe you would just unlock a whole bunch the day they come out. But it would allow like Kilfe here to drop a second thing, which could effectively be an upgrade to them in stealth as well, because it could give them like specific upgrades for having their Super Trust Master equipped. That would make her even more powerful for having her signature weapon. She dropped an accessory previously, so there's all sorts of potential for her to drop a weapon this time. I think that would be a cool addition to the game, a way to update older units, a way to add some more interesting dynamics to the game. I just think that'd be fun. Manny Villanueva 6387 on my top 1000 rank arena video says, I have to agree that spear duo team with Dario is too broken right now. Good thing A2 1v3 them easily, just slap her with Sildred for berserk resistance and watch her wipe them. And I think that's fair. Like, I felt a lot more comfortable playing with my strike team. I think that the diversity of elements, the fact that it has a full job VC where I'm only using like one here, just makes it a lot more powerful in general. Strike as a job type is also bonused this week as well, so they're quite strong. And I've been having a lot of fun playing with them, but yeah, this team is also quite good, and I'm really surprised at how well it's doing. I think once I get a little bit further, closer to like 500, I might have to switch back to Strike, but this is still winning more often than not right now, so good deal. And I'm in the top 1000. All right. Also, Vinju commenting on the same video. My target only 1k below an arena. I'm tired of focusing on number 1. And I know I did a video focusing on getting on number 1 myself with a free unit team that I've mentioned recently. But yeah, I understand. Also, hey Raymond, running the same team, I see. Is it mirror match? Oh my god. Yeah, he's got to be running like actual good VCs. Look at how much stronger his team is than me. What is that? I don't even recognize that. I just got better win cards is all. Okay. Boy. Okay, I think I can take this team pretty reliably. So, let's move on to more comments. Okay, so I was talking about the fact that I found out that Veritas units reincarnate 18 stars at a time. So they're going to be 6 times as fast to reincarnate as other units, and this potentially means that they should reincarnate in about 15 runs, something like that. Now, there is a counterpoint to this. It's worth noting that stat limits are lower, thanks Lillicris 2711, than regular units though, which kind of sucks. E.g., as a physical attacker, 2050 HP instead of 2400, 150 attack instead of 180, etc. That being said, and that is important to note, I didn't notice that myself, and I'm glad someone brought that to my attention. However, I still think that this is really cool for a free unit. It means that they reach power, they gain power a lot faster than other units, but at the same time, their top end power isn't as high. So like end game, maybe not as powerful as they are now. And as more people get units fully reincarnated, as we get more new good units that keep up with kind of Veritas level power, then maybe they'll have a lot more competition. At least for right now, I think it's pretty strong. It's also worth noticing, and I don't know if this is a design philosophy that's going to extend into more new units, because I've only so far noticed it on Veritas units. Tell me if there are any other new units, because I don't look as much at their board as I do their skills, that have this, but the Veritas have been getting like 4 stat upgrades on their job level 25 stat nodes instead of just 1. I think this might balance out some parts of that. I mean, I think it's very easy that they might get the 30 attack and the extra HP there, and then some, perhaps, but that probably limits them in certain other stats, which again just speaks even more heavily to the idea that they get to a high level of power much faster than other units. And even if it doesn't necessarily balance them out, because even if it did make up for the effect that we're talking about here that Lil Chris brings to our attention, that still replaces their stat node, which means that they're essentially missing a stat node. But they reincarnate faster, which I guess is a pretty cool trade-off. And I really think that when you look at it like that, it's not a bad thing. It's a different design philosophy, and probably even a better and less tedious and annoying one. And I really, 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 really love it for free units like these. Because they shouldn't be the tippity top, but they should also be, for most intents and purposes, very strong. So I think that really captures the spirit of that, and I really like it. I had a real fucked up matchup with Amelnia versus this team, where she got 2 attacks in a row and just kind of fucked my day up. Also, a lot of healing on this team, so maybe it'll keep her alive longer. I don't know. We'll see what happens. Those can also be pretty tough units to take out themselves. But, another load screen, so another comment. Snow's Laugh MP3 is a photo of me getting 5 defends with my guild battle team. I've only seen this happen a couple of times. I've seen someone get as high as 6, I think, but I think that's like the theoretical maximum of best team versus worst opponents, maybe. Because eventually you're just running out of skills, and it doesn't matter how good your kit is, because you can't use it, because you're out of AP, or you're out of skill casts, or whatever. But this team, Rude Boy asks, what, how? And the answer is Snow, Alaya the Alabaster, and Perrine. Alaya and Perrine being at max reincarnation. This is also a strike team that I've used in my most latest arena videos, and I actually copy-pasted it from what I was using in that into my guild battle team to update it. So the exact build is actually available via that video if you want to try to do something similar. I think Snow is reincarnated 8 times for reference. On the mage meta... Good lord. On the mage meta video, I had to leave a comment myself. I don't know how I keep forgetting this. I think I just kind of look at her and I'm like, oh yeah, you're definitely a black mage. Because I don't really understand how they're drawing like the design difference between these two things. I kind of get red mage. Kind of. Warrior, kind of. Knight, kind of. But staff and devout just doesn't make sense to me. Despite how much I want her to be a black mage for like elements, or not elemental, but like status-based Marlboro type team strategies, she's not. She's a devout. And it kind of sucks that there isn't the synergy to put her on a black mage team like that. But I think she's still going to be useful, and being a devout follower of the Veritas of the Waters, I think I'm going to definitely try to figure out how to make her work. Oh no. I clicked over to my video, and it froze. Now we'll never know. Welp, how did that match end? Who knows, ladies and gentlemen? Who knows? I'm glad that my video recorder is still working, though. That would be really disappointing if it wasn't. You can still see me. Cool. So I should get my fucking goofy body out of the frame of this book in the background. If you can see that there. Also, there's another book right over here. Haha. Ain't that neat? Now get my shoulder out of the way. There's no promo like free promo. Moving on to more comments. Mahazaldik official 4768 says on my tactician Eldoa is coming. Wow, she's a really good tank. And because of that, I will pass. Saving for the Ashen King. And, you know, I really think that part of like the redesign that maybe fixes some of the mistakes that have been made recently, part of that redesign is coming defensively. We're having more and more units that can compete with the types of strategies that Alaya offers. We also have that creating its own problem, as I focused on in is Black Mage the future meta. And Oh, cool. Oh, well, I guess you live in LA. Neat. You're special. But there's also, like I said, kind of a problem that's being created on the defensive side because of that. Auras and just the rampant self-healing issues, like all of these are becoming problems. But one of the solutions to that, of course, is to make to kind of redefine the level of tanking that's possible so that it kind of excludes units like Alaya, perhaps, in a way. Fortunately, this will probably exclude a lot of older units, and maybe updates can fix them to do the things, and just like never give Alaya the right updates again, or just don't update her for a long time. You can skip her, she's fine, she'll be fine. But you know, one of the theories that I have and that I've heard a number of times is that the Ashen King might come in with like aura breaks or aura nullification, or maybe he can steal auras or something like that that breaks into what, like, that give him a way to break the tech that Alaya works with, and don't put him in lightning, and don't make him a strike unit. As long as you don't give him an obvious synergy with Alaya so that she can utilize that to make a comeback off of him, then I think we'll be fine. I think that might allow them to reimagine DPSs in a way that could balance her. But also, you know, updating everything and ignoring the shit out of her could work too. So, hopefully. We can always hope. I was asking folks what unit updates they were most excited for. Ruinstern and Resnick won that poll pretty neatly, and that's why their videos are already out. Not So Anonymous 686 comments, just finished via KeyQuest Story Archive Rise of the Serpent. I would love to see a Sir O in his prime. And yeah, I absolutely would too. I do want to mention, though, there was another post that mentioned Sir O on this one that I actually like even better, but it's a lot older. I would rather see updates to old useless characters than new versions of already good characters, or even brand new ones. Let's see Grace, Uni, O, and Miche get the Baleo boost. I think there's a way of doing this, because there's a commonality to all of those units that you haven't really thought about, and that's that none of them have limit bursts. Also, the Select Quest units don't have limit bursts either. So one way that you could update all of these units that might be particularly impactful for them is to give them kind of new style limit bursts. Maybe, and the way they design these characters tends to be powerful, but very niche, very specialized. Like, they could, in theory, in a specific situation, be really aggravating and commanding, but you're not as likely to run into that scenario or run into it reliably. Man, that's a good looking LB. Oh no. Speaking of good looking LBs, did they get the... Oh no. No, I got triple crossed. Which somehow healed me more than it hurt me. Okay. I'm okay with that. Oh no. Well, at least she's not charmed anymore. Better dead than charmed. The regen on LB is actually kind of working out for him here. Although... Ooh! So here's the thing. Sadly is not the strongest unit these days. I feel like I win against him pretty consistently, but there's always a roll of the dice where he just fucks your face in a little bit later on with statuses. He's always kind of a wild card like that, and I kind of enjoy him for it, but it can be frustrating in Arena when you're trying to do something consistently. But maybe, like, I don't know, like, abilities like that could potentially turn the tide in battle, but don't really change the game 100%. But I think the thing that both of you agree on is that we're due for a good O. Gumi owes us a good O. Let's see. Okay, maybe it's time to break out the strike team. Wait, what? Did I have that team on here twice? Let's see if we can just beat... It's a pretty good dark team, but let's see what we can do against it. Mahazeldek official asks on my Final Fantasy 13 Part 2 collaboration video, is Sephiroth coming? And a couple things here, with as far as I can tell with any accuracy, no. And I'm going to further double down on that no in part of my response, but one of the things I want to point out that FFB not having vision cards, or at least not having separate vision cards, they were always attached to units when they were released. Kind of like the way that vision cards are attached to espers, or espers are attached to vision cards. So they didn't have vision card weeks. They released a lot more units, and they also released a lot more units at a time. So the content release schedule for new units was always much faster. This meant that FFB was way more able to do promotional or type content, like new game comes out, those units are going to be in FFB within the month, you know? I don't expect this type of speed, or like the fact that we don't have Zack, the fact that we didn't get Zack when Crisis Core was remade is befuddling to me. So will we get an update to Sephiroth and a re-collaboration with Final Fantasy VII soon? Well, no, because it's not coming in the next month in JP. So if that's your definition of soon, no. But also no in that I just don't think it's coming soon for them either. So it's probably like 2 months in our future at best. I do think it would be a great idea for them to do this soon. It would really bring a lot of people back to the game every time they re-collaborate with 7, and especially with a lot of... Maybe it's Rebirth coming back that's brought more people into WotV. Maybe that's why some of you are returning. Only you really know. So returning players, let me know what brought you back to WotV in the comments. But it feels like a good time to have that. It feels like a good time to do a crossover to bring that stuff in. That being said, actually the first collaboration unit that I would expect to get 2 versions, it's either got to be Cloud or Lightning. I would expect Cloud. There's so many more classic Final Fantasy VII characters to introduce that usually don't get included or like get special stuff that were made special in Rebirth that could use that love. Be a fun time to get Sid, for instance. It'd be really funny to have multiple Sids. You could make a team Sid at some point. I really expect Cloud or Lightning to be the first collaboration unit to get a second unit. But also, they've had plenty of opportunities to do like 13.2 or 13.3, and they haven't. And really, I mean, Lightning wasn't in 13.2, so she wouldn't get a new one off of that. So she would be getting a new unit off of 13.3 Lightning Returns. So I could see that happening, but also with Cloud being who he is, and having kind of the regard that he does have, especially from Final Fantasy fans of all walks of life, I just can't see how he's not the first one to get a second form. And, you know, by the time I quit playing FB, he had like 3 or 4 forms already. There was even a Kingdom Hearts form for him. So, like, again, the content release schedules in FB and the amount of diversity of units that they released was just intense, in terms of just variations on things and stuff. But that doesn't really happen as much here. So, while I do see Sephiroth getting Limit Burst updates as soon as that comes back, and... you know, one really killer thing to him would be for him to just get, like, a second activation of his Limit Burst. Like, no upgrade, just second activation. That's all he needs. Just do it more often, and that'll be fine. think I can usually pick on ice with this. Yeah, oh yeah. They have two 120s. I'm only slightly concerned with A2 here, because she tends to get punched out pretty quickly, and we can kind of take her. But, she could be a problem. The fact that she's with 120s, though, makes me feel pretty confident. So, I'm kind of hoping that it comes. I'm kind of hoping that he gets a really crazy LB. I really hope that Cloud gets a stacked LB upgrade. Like a Courage or a Mirage Shield, so he's not getting one-tapped as easy. While it doesn't necessarily line up with the way that the ability looks or kind of the flavor of the ability, giving it more range would be a big help in keeping him alive, giving him the ability to get those type of bonuses before he takes damage for the first time, as often the first time is fatal for him. I think that'd be pretty important. Also, on that video, Ediel Gagarin 6155 says, Snow is great. Always used LB. So good with 2P's team buff. Yep. She's definitely a unit I probably should have pulled multiple copies of. But I just wasn't feeling it that month, unfortunately. And you know what? We all have burnout and we all need to take time off. Vinju on King Dario's PvP tip says, I need Final Fantasy VII Advent Children collab release. Yeah, don't hold your breath. There was an Advent Children version of Cloud in FFBE too. Unless they're going to remake the movie or do a game around it, and even if they do, because like they're more, I think WotV is more looking to do the core portions of franchises. They're not trying to do like full cast. Like I don't think we'll ever see Jesse or Biggs and Wedge in this game in the way that we saw them in FFBE, even though like give me those guys as MR units, please. That would be awesome. But you know, again, they completely ignored the re-release of Crisis Core. All they had to give us was a Zac for that. Although, Angel? Cisne? Maybe? That could be fun. But I think the odds of other collaboration titles getting respect, especially when, like, Rebirth really... Come on, like... Look, y'all know when release dates are. Tell your Gumi people to do more in terms of building for that release. You know what I mean? They should have been prepared for this. Wow. With 1 HP, she dropped their entire team. Snag impact is crazy. But yeah, you can see that, you know, even with some balancing, she's still quite strong in the right setup. And there's definitely a very strong setup within Strike for her. Hidden Lore 5312 says, did bro just call A2 a barrier bot? The A2 I've been seeing dish out some serious damage and sometimes lap Velis with haste. I think she's a pain to deal with. Well, she's not a barrier bot. She is an android. She's definitely one of the tougher threats in Ice right now, and she's also making her way into a lot of non-Ice teams. I see her paired with auras quite often, even though, like, you know, I say barrier protection because that's kind of like the meme thing that she does. Ooh, oh, they're all 120. How did this get here? How did you get this far with only 120 units? I mean, I'm excited for this team. Like, I want to see this team in action. That's why I picked... Jesus. That's why I picked it. But, Summer Elsarel. Let's go. But, like, barrier protection, that was kind of her selling point. Like, we were using a lot of protection abilities, and I was trying to keep people in the mind of, like, these aren't really a great defensive strategy. They're not super effective. But also, I think this is now a thing that Dario can do, too. She also has a two-person follow-up heal, also like Dario. But these things are both great. Like, we talk about these things being good. And she does a ton of damage, as you mentioned. Even with re-raise, though. With, like most ice units, she's easy enough to remove from the board, which is not necessarily an issue that Dario would face. Re-raise removal also is relatively common tech, but if you go up against teams specifically that don't interact with re-raise well, another place that Alaya becomes a real menace. If you're not going up against that, then she is a pretty good unit. So she does cool support and sustain stuff while doing damage, and these dynamics like work really well with like water teams, especially the newer water teams, but also greatsword teams. Like, she's a real asset to greatsword teams. I think she really needs tanks to keep her alive longer because of how fragile she could be, but you know, if you want a glass cannon or an ice cannon, she's pretty good. I also honestly thought that these units would be dead by now, but I mean, we're doing pretty good, and the stag impact is strong with our team. But okay, I guess they didn't last much longer. Jeez. And it's crazy, like, you know, the strike team doesn't take much damage getting up to things, and then it deals a lot of damage as soon as it's in range. It's like a bomb. Okay. But I'm kind of out of comments at this point. Ooh, here's an A2. Okay, so I'm going to end it with this particular fight. And while we're in the load screen, I want to point out, like I said, these books have been in the background this whole time. This is, if you're into more like realistic fiction, kind of angsty millennial energies, this is a good book for you. Set in 2020, early height of the pandemic, it focuses on technology that would allow you to record your dreams and some of the very obvious and modern concerns that technology like that would raise. I mean, I've often had so much trouble remembering my dreams when I wake up, and thought that I had such fascinating dreams that I've wanted a technology like this to exist, but the more I see the modern world around me, the more I see the ways that this would instantly become perverted. Not like dirty perverted, although that could happen too, but you know what I mean. Just corrupted by the powers that be. And then even further in the... push that over too far. Even further in the background, we have Athena's Chosen. Technically sits in the same world. It's set back in, I think, 2016, 2017, which is about the time I was writing it. It was looking at, you know, what advanced AI might be able to do for, like, advanced generative AI and LLM type bots. Maybe moving a little bit closer to advanced AI that we're seeing today, or maybe even technically a little bit more advanced. You know, definitely concepts like AI-based gaming wouldn't be nearly as cool as it is in that, even though it is a bit of a clusterfuck, and the designers aren't really designing very much. They're kind of I don't know. Even they can't control their creation, which I think is kind of a common warning point that science fiction should adopt for AI, because oh man, the next couple years are going to be wild, and that's going to be capitalized on most in this series right here. And the books that come after that are going to be a lot more focused on some exacerbations of modern, kind of a modern parody of modern society, AI, and tech culture that we live in. But if you're looking for more of a fun, like, inside the game, seeing how the NPCs get about and how they go about their lives when you're not playing, that's more of the type of thing that Athena's Chosen is, where the NPCs themselves decide that, you know, they have to save themselves because no one else is going to fucking do it. Which is just a lovely premise, I think. So if either of those books strike your fancy, or maybe it's gift season or something, and you're thinking, hey, maybe somebody wants me to give them a gift, give the gift of reading with one of these books. If either of them's, oh my god, this is so much harder than it. If either of those look appealing to you, then be sure to check out that link in the description where you'll find links to these books as well as other Jackie Fox products and content. But also, I want to say, like, after I got done with the recent edit for this book, I finally got its hardcover, so I'm really excited for that. I even have what's currently an alternate art for it. I really like this art so much. Like, really, I think this was Stable Diffusion, really early generative AI, but this is a composite, like, digital collage of about 12 different images that were produced during several different series, combined what I hope is artfully together. Like, it does have some hallmarks of AI, but that is one of the things that we're talking about in the series. And also, I really like Stable Diffusion had a weird dreamlike quality to it anyways, especially in like the weird watercolor stuff that I was getting it to do at the time. So that felt like there's a lot of poetry and symbolism that I have incorporated into this title. There's a lot of little details that will become more and more, there's this cover describes the book a lot more than you would think it does, and you'll pick apart some of those details as you read through, which is, like, admittedly not something that generative AI would do by itself. Like, you absolutely have to collage together a half dozen images to get that kind of complexity in the same image. It might do something you like in each image, but those rarely come together into one good thing. So, similarly, I don't know, I just liked the cover art, and I was really excited to make a hardcover to put it on. So if you would like that as well, it's a little bit more because it's a little bit more expensive to produce, but it's a really good high quality copy if you want some Jackie Fox content to hold on to for a long time. So that being said, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.